Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi outlines his development agenda in the address on the motion of thanks to the President's address in the upper house of Parliament. 2 bomb blasts in Pakistan on the eve of the country's parliamentary and provincial elections killed at least 26 people, dozens injured. US Secretary of State holds talks with Israel's Prime Minister and President on Hamas's proposal of a 135-day truce and complete Israeli withdrawal. The EU aims to cut net greenhouse gas emissions by 90% by 2040, relaxes agriculture targets. And Germany's national carrier Lufthansa cancels 1,000 flights after ground crew strike work. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday outlined his development agenda as he seeks a 3rd consecutive term in office. Laying out his vision for the country for the next 5 years, the Prime Minister said that transforming public transport, solar power and cheap healthcare would top his to-do list.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday replied to the motion of thanks to the President's address in the Rajya Sabha, the country's upper house of the legislature. The Prime Minister criticized the erstwhile Congress government. He said that in the 10 years of the Congress-led UPA rule, India's economy was in the fragile 5. On the other hand, in the 10 years of the BJP-led NDA government, the country has risen to the 5th largest economy in the world.
जो कांग्रेस 10 वर्ष में 12 नंबर से 11 नंबर पर आर्थिक व्यवस्था ले आ पाई। 10 साल में 12 से 11 नंबर, और आप 12 से 11 आने में बहुत मेहनत नहीं पड़ती है। जैसे जैसे आगे बढ़ते हैं तो मेहनत और बढ़ती है। हम 10 साल में 5 नंबर पे ले आए। जिस कांग्रेस के अपने नेता की कोई गारंटी नहीं है, अपनी नीति की कोई गारंटी नहीं है, वो मोदी की गारंटी पर सवाल उठा रहे हैं।
Prime Minister said that Modi 3.0 will infuse all its power to realize the dream of a developed India.
अधिकतर पीएसयू रिकॉर्ड रिटर्न दे रहे हैं और इन्वेस्टर्स का भरोसा पीएसयू की तरफ बढ़ रहा है। हमारे 10 वर्ष में पीएसयू की नेट वर्थ 9.5 लाख करोड़ से बढ़कर के 17 लाख करोड़ हो गई है।
He said that the Congress party in the opposition has always been against reservation.
नेहरू जी कहते थे, अगर एससी, एसटी, ओबीसी को नौकरियों में आरक्षण मिला तो सरकारी काम का स्तर गिर जाएगा। और आज जो आंकड़े गिनाते हैं ना कि इतने यहाँ है, इतने यहाँ है, उसका मूल यहाँ है, क्योंकि उस समय उन्होंने रोक दिया था रिक्रूटमेंट ही मत करो। अगर उस समय सरकार में भर्ती हुई होती और वो प्रमोशन करते करते आगे बढ़ते तो आज यहाँ पर पहुंचते।
Prime Minister Modi once again exuded confidence that the BJP-led NDA government will get a 3rd term in office after the 2024 election. Bureau Report, DD India.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that prices of essential commodities have declined in the country. Speaking in the country's lower house of parliament, the minister said multi-dimensional poverty in India has come down.
Inflation, sir, has declined from an average of 6.8% in April-December 2022 to 5.5% in the corresponding period of 2023. The retail inflation is now stable and within the notified tolerance band of 2 to 6%. The core inflation has actually declined from 5.1% in April 2023 to 3.8% in December 2023.
As Pakistan goes to the polls, ongoing violence from the Taliban, a struggling economy and questions surrounding the vote's credibility are all dominating the discourse. Hope hangs on the aspirations of first-time voters and the potential for political change. Meanwhile, on the eve of the elections, 3 bomb explosions rocked the country on Wednesday. At least 27 people have been killed and dozens injured in these explosions. Jessica Taneja reports.
Explosions near the campaign offices of 2 election candidates jolted southwestern Pakistan in quick succession. This incident is not an isolated one. Last year, a suicide bomber targeted a mosque in Peshawar, killing 100 policemen, marking it as the deadliest attack of the year. Despite numerous Pakistani army operations since 2002 to eliminate the Pakistani Taliban or the Tehreek-e-Taliban-e-Pakistan, the US-designated terror outfit continues to cause significant casualties, targeting mostly innocent students and policemen. This is the same terrorist organization that claimed responsibility for shooting Nobel Peace Prize winner Malala Yousafzai.
In reply, Mr. Jinnah said,
a country where no democratically elected prime minister has ever completed a full term in office, democratic endeavors have often been met with violent resistance, and this election was expected to follow suit. As Pakistan conducts its 12th general election, the resurgence of armed rebellion in tribal areas isn't the sole concern. The nation grapples with the daunting task of restoring social and political stability. Among millions of first-time voters like Rabia Shafiq, there's a glimmer of hope for Pakistan to embark on a comprehensive reform and long-term transformation.
I'm going to cast my vote for the first time in my life in the 2024 election. I want to vote for an honest party, a party that will work honestly for the poor, look after the poor. The rich can get all sorts of degrees from the topmost universities.
With a staggering 28% year-on-year inflation rate, looming debt repayment obligations of $77.5 billion over the next 3 years, Pakistan's economic woes have taken center stage in this election. Moreover, recent fuel price hikes, hefty summer electricity bills, voters say that neither party has spelled out exactly how they will fulfill their promises.
The inflation is extraordinary. A person whose salary is 25,000 rupees or $90 cannot afford to buy anything. A person whose income is above 50,000 rupees or $180 will have a kitchen expenditure of $90. Then there's the school fees of his kids, the bills for gas and electricity and many other things. Even he cannot afford all this, let alone the person who makes $90 who won't know how to cope.
While former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan serves a jail term over alleged corruption charges and the opposition's presence now dwindles, front-runner and former Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is eyeing a significant political resurgence after years of exile. As doubts linger over election credibility and rigging allegations, one simple truth about Pakistan's politics remains clear. Power is wielded through the barrel of a gun. Regardless of the government in Islamabad, the military has consistently been and remains the true authority in the nation's political landscape. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
And Jessica Taneja, who filed that report, joins us for more. Jessica, give us an overview of the elections.
Well, it's a complete switch between the Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, and Nawaz Sharif. If you recall, Ramesh, in 2018, Nawaz Sharif was packed and sent away to London, where he was recovering, and he was holed up in that apartment where he was banned on similar charges of corruption, a scandal that had rocked his political career. And now this exact same situation with Imran Khan, who's now serving a jail term for corruption cases that were filed against him. So the main candidate of the opposition party, or the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf leader, Imran Khan, now behind the bars, has already created a lot of political unrest amongst his supporters. But at the same time, Nawaz Sharif is back in the city of Islamabad and is conducting rallies, and there are more rallies to be lined up. And as the people vote tomorrow, election that was supposed to be held in November last year, but if you recall, the kind of political turmoil and economic turmoil that the country witnessed last year with Imran Khan's ouster, with the no confidence motion, it's seen quite a bit of electoral discomfort. But this time around, there are expectations where the free and fair elections would prevail. And as we know, in Pakistan, no prime minister has ever been able to complete a full term. So this one would be hoping, where this is the one election where people will be hoping that there is some form of stability, not only politically, but also an economic restructuring that the country desperately needs. Because at this point, not only do they have $75 billion worth of loans and debt restructuring to take place, but also ordinary citizens are bearing the brunt of the kind of instability created in the country when it comes to both social and political fabric.
All right, we'll leave it there. Jessica Taneja, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Also joining me is Mr. Pinag Ranjan Chakraborty. He joins us from New Delhi. Mr. Chakraborty is a former Indian ambassador to Thailand and High Commissioner to Bangladesh. He also served as the Consul General of India in Karachi. Ambassador Chakraborty, welcome to DD India News Hour. If I may begin by asking you, how do you read the election based on what we know about how the campaign has evolved over the last few weeks?
You're calling it an election. I would call it a selection, because things, it's a sense of deja vu, kind of history repeating itself. You had Nawaz Sharif being booted out to various convictions in courts on certain charges. Now all those charges have been dropped and he's back fighting an election. And hopefully, as the army sort of candidate, will become the next prime minister. Imran Khan, who took on the army and somehow fell foul of various their interests, is now languishing in jail. He's got 10 years for various offenses, including revealing of state secrets, and including your viewers will be very surprised to know for an un-Islamic marriage. I mean, the army is certainly very innovative in terms of, bringing up charges like these and getting, of course, the very blind courts to convict him. So this is the situation. And I do not think that this can be called a free and fair election. And many countries also think that this is not free and fair. It has never been in Pakistan, because the army basically, pulls all the strings behind the scenes, and sometimes not so behind the scenes when they actually intervene and take over power. Almost half its, life as a free country, the army has been in power directly and indirectly behind a civilian facade.
Ambassador Chakraborty, what do you make of Nawaz Sharif's return to active politics? Also, do you think Imran Khan's party, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, is still in the reckoning?
I doubt it, because they would have disqualified almost all their candidates, which is a standard, kind of ploy to eliminate opposition. Once the army decides that a certain candidate has to win, and in this case, and this time around it is Nawaz Sharif, then all the opposition is generally, decimated, by putting them in prison for various charges, or not accepting their nominations and rejecting them on certain grounds. So that's how the situation has been. And I do not think that the opposition has any chance of challenging the chosen person, that the army has chosen, and the party the army has chosen to be the next government, to form the next.
And finally, Ambassador Chakraborty, you call it selection. Well, call it selection or election. Will it at all change Pakistan's calculus against India?
I don't think so.
Why do you say that?
No, because Mr. Nawaz Sharif, who has been the Prime Minister for the most number of times, will certainly be very, very circumspect in terms of crossing the red lines of the army, because then he will suffer the same fate that he has suffered earlier, and doesn't want to go to prison again. After all, he's getting older and doesn't want to do things that will annoy the army. So he will say things, but I don't think he's going to do things that the army doesn't want him to do. And that includes the relationship with India.
All right, Ambassador Chakraborty says the election or selection, as he calls it, will not change Pakistan's calculus, and Nawaz Sharif might talk all right, but it might be difficult for him to walk the talk. On that note, Ambassador Chakraborty, thank you so much for joining us on DD India News Hour. Appreciate it. Thank you. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Germany's national carrier Lufthansa cancels 1,000 flights after ground crew strike work. Russia accuses the US of direct involvement in the downing of a Russian military transport aircraft. And Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz to hold talks with US President Joe Biden in Washington, D.C. on Friday.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles, and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger, and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science, and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. In response to a truce plan put forward by mediators and approved by Israel, Hamas has outlined a number of demands, including reconstructing Gaza and swapping hostages for Palestinian inmates. But Israel has not yet made any public statement on the proposal. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held talks on the issue with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem.
The Palestinian militant group Hamas has proposed a truce plan that would silence the guns in Gaza, suggesting that a political solution to the Israel-Hamas crisis appears to be imminent. However, Israel has not yet made a statement to the public. It is reiterating its earlier stand that forces will not withdraw from Gaza until Hamas is destroyed. The Hamas proposal envisages 3 phases of a truce lasting 45 days each. The United States has said it will review Hamas's response to the hostage deal. Reacting to the proposed deal, President Joe Biden said there has been some movement on a deal to secure the release of hostages by Hamas.
There's some movement. There's been a response from Hamas, but it seems to be a little over the top. We're not sure where it is. There's a continuing negotiation right now.
Yeah, a few weeks. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is making all efforts for truce and release of hostages. He is in Israel as the United States reviews the response from Hamas to a hostage deal proposal. Earlier, in a joint news conference with the Qatari Prime Minister in Doha, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken promised a serious proposal. Qatari Prime Minister also said Hamas has given a promising reply to a proposed deal for the release of remaining hostages but declined to give more details.
We have received a response from the Hamas regarding the framework of the agreement between the parties on hostages. The response contains some remarks on the framework, but in general it is a positive response. But due to sensitivity of the phase, we cannot go into details. The response makes us hopeful, and we have presented it to the Israeli side.
The militant group's proposal comes as a response to an offer sent last week by Qatari and Egyptian mediators and cleared by Israel and the United States.
The United States accused Russia of firing at least 9 North Korea-supplied missiles at Ukraine. On the other hand, Moscow labeled Washington, D.C. a direct accomplice in the downing of a Russian military transport plane last month.
United States and Russia traded accusations against each other at the UN Security Council meeting on Ukraine on Tuesday. United States accuses Russia of firing at least 9 North Korean-supplied missiles at Ukraine, while Moscow labeled Washington a direct accomplice in downing of a Russian military transport plane last month.
Today we possess irrefutable evidence that a Patriot surface-to-air missile was used to carry out the strike, which leaves no doubt that Washington is a direct accomplice in this crime as well.
While Deputy U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Robert Wood, said that Russia and North Korea must be held accountable for their actions.
To date, Russia has launched DPRK-supplied ballistic missiles against Ukraine on at least 9 occasions. Russia and the DPRK must be held accountable for their actions, which undermine long-standing obligations under UN Security Council resolutions.
Russia and North Korea have drawn closer in recent days. Last month, North Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Son-hui made a rare visit to Russia, where she met Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Moscow. During that trip, North Korean Foreign Minister had also met Russian President Vladimir Putin on January 16th. Meanwhile, all of Ukraine was under air raid alert for over 2 hours as Russia launched missile strikes on Kiev and other Ukrainian cities on Wednesday morning. Fuzail Ahmed reporting for DD India.
Ukraine's air defense systems shot down 29 missiles and 15 drones launched by Russia on Wednesday. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky took to social media to say that 2 people were killed and at least 10 injured in Kyiv. Russian forces launched 64 missiles and drones in waves, of which 44 were downed. The Kyiv mayor says the capital city remains a target. In an apparent bid to garner support for Ukraine, Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz will visit the US this week. Scholz will highlight Europe's efforts to help Ukraine in the ongoing conflict. He will hold talks with US President Joe Biden along with US lawmakers and CEOs on Friday. Scholz's trip comes amid uncertainty over US support for Ukraine, with the Congress stalling over Biden's request in October to approve an additional $61 billion. To the U.S. elections now, U.S. President Joe Biden has won Nevada's Democratic presidential primary election on Tuesday, bringing him closer to formally securing his party's nomination for a likely contest against Republican rival Donald Trump. Biden registered his win against author Marianne Williamson. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley lost in Nevada's primary, finishing behind ballots marked "None of these candidates" by the supporters of Donald Trump. Biden's victory comes days after he saw a landslide victory in his first official primary in South Carolina on Saturday. Germany's national carrier Lufthansa cancelled 1,000 flights scheduled for Wednesday amid industrial action from ground crew. While Germany's biggest hubs by passenger volume at Frankfurt and Munich are the hardest hit, other airports such as Hamburg, Berlin and Düsseldorf will also be affected.
Airline passengers in Germany are facing difficulty as Berlin-based trade union Verdi have called for industrial action between 4 a.m. on Wednesday until 7:10 a.m. on Thursday IST. Their demands include a wage hike of 12.5% for some 25,000 workers, or at least 500 euros more per month over a 12-month period, plus a one-time payment of 3,000 euros to offset inflation.
Lufthansa presented an offer in the last round, but it's not only inadequate, but it's also divisive. Group of employees are being played off against each other, so to speak. It is completely unacceptable to us.
The airline had proposed a 13% pay rise over 3 years, saying it was a good offer.
At the second meeting, after we had the far-reaching and complex demands of Verdi explained to us, we, as Lufthansa, presented what I consider to be a good offer with a 13% increase in salary, components and additional benefits on average over the next 3 years.
Germany's biggest hubs by passenger volume at Frankfurt and Munich are hardest hit. Other airports, Hamburg, Berlin and Düsseldorf, will also be affected. Around 100,000 passengers are expected to be affected by the industrial action.
It's understandable that they are striking, but it's annoying nonetheless. The number of strikes in Germany is annoying, of course, so I think politicians and businesses should come up with some solutions.
National carrier Lufthansa has cancelled between 80% to 90% of its approximately 1,000 flights. Lufthansa says only 10 to 20% of flights will operate. Airline passengers expect that the issue should be resolved when the two sides meet on Monday. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
And staying in Europe, Spanish farmers continue to block major highways in the country with their tractors for a second day as anger spreads in Europe's countryside against high costs, bureaucracy and competition from non-EU countries. Farmers have said that rules imposed by the EU to protect the environment make them less competitive than peers in other regions such as Latin America or non-EU Europe. And now take a look at some more stories making news around the world. Azerbaijanis voted today in a snap election almost certain to give incumbent President Ilham Aliyev another 7-year term following his government's swift reclaiming of a region formerly controlled by ethnic Armenian separatists. Two main opposition parties of Azerbaijan will also not participate in the election as they claim that the elections are rigged. Polish opposition politicians mired in a row over whether two of their members can still sit in parliament after criminal convictions tussled with security outside the assembly on Wednesday as they try to force their way in. Former Interior Minister Mariusz Kamiński and his deputy Maciej Wasik were jailed last month after being sentenced to abuse of power in their previous roles. They claimed to be political prisoners and denied they had lost their parliamentary mandates. In a province in southern Philippines, rescue operations are underway after a landslide buried homes and 2 buses, killing at least 6 people and injuring 31. The landslide on Tuesday night struck outside a gold mining site in the town of Mako, where the buses were picking up employees. Still to come on DD India News Hour. A discussion on Prime Minister of India's address to the upper house of the country's parliament. A 3-day space seminar and exhibition called DefSat begins in India's capital, New Delhi. And the northern Indian state of Uttarakhand passes the Uniform Civil Code Bill.
Is telepathy real or fiction? Could it soon be a reality? Imagine controlling your world with your mind. Elon Musk's brain chip promises telepathy for real. But is it safe? Is it ethical? I connect the dots to get the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi outlines his development agenda in the address on the motion of thanks to the President's address in the upper house of Parliament. 3 bomb blasts in Pakistan on the eve of the country's parliamentary and provincial elections kill at least 27 people, dozens injured. U.S. Secretary of State holds talks with Israel's Prime Minister and President on Hamas's proposal of a 135-day truce and complete Israeli withdrawal. And the EU aims to cut net greenhouse gas emissions by 90% by the year 2040, relaxes agriculture targets. All right, going back to the top story, Prime Minister Modi's address to the upper house of the country's parliament this afternoon. Mr. Shekhar Iyer joins us from New Delhi. Mr. Iyer is a veteran journalist. Mr. Iyer, welcome to DD India News Hour. What did you make of the Prime Minister's address? What stood out for you in his speech?
Thank you, Rajeshji. The Prime Minister's address exuded the confidence that the country is witnessing today across all sectors. And as you mentioned, it was about the development agenda that this government has pursued for the last 10 years. And the confidence that the Prime Minister speaks about in the country is also the confidence that his government feels that the people would renew their mandate and they have full faith in his leadership because of certain deliverables that have happened in the past few years. A lot of things have changed. There are a lot of things to change. And the Prime Minister's mantra of, transform and also perform. Rather reform, transform, reform, perform,
and transform.
Yes, and the mantra has been applied in several areas, and one is already beginning to see results. The worst phase for this government was the COVID challenge, the way it was overcome, and along with that, the slowdown in the economy, which was previously witnessed, and the way that things are picking up now. And that has given people the confidence that they can face the future with a lot more hopes. That is why the Prime Minister pointed out the areas where these changes have occurred, what kind of these changes are, and why would people trust his leadership and his government to continue forward with this development progress.
Do you think he succeeded in laying out a very clear vision for the country ahead of the 2024 election?
Rajeshji, if you take the speech today in the upper house of parliament, and as well as in the lower house of parliament, or the Lok Sabha the previous day, one can see that it is very clear that the Prime Minister is looking at the future of this country in terms of the challenges ahead, particularly in the run-up to a period we have what is called as Amrit Kal, the period that will see by 2047, India would complete 100 years as an independent country. By then, what are the challenges that we'll have to overcome? One is complete removal of poverty, providing the basic amenities to all, which should be completed in the next 5 years. And then speeded infrastructure development for the sake of growth, for the sake of job creation, and also enabling the youth of this country. That's why the Prime Minister kept talking about the 4 pillars of the society. And those 4 pillars are, as he mentioned, our youth, our women folk, our farmers, whom he calls them Annadata, and the poor people. The poor people are themselves not seen in terms of economic condition, but in terms of potential for this country. If they can overcome whatever is inhibiting them, then one can see a tremendous change in this country. And that change is possible because of the confidence. That change is possible because of the positive attitude towards, the things that have to be done in this country. That is why the Prime Minister pointed out look, the opposition today, in all its forms, is unable to grasp what is needed in this country. Because we have only been seeing criticism, negative approach, which are not clicking with the people. People no longer trust the opposition to do what they think should be done. That is the reason why they prefer Prime Minister Modi and his leadership. They have seen in the last 10 years that certain things are possible. If you take up anything, whether it is, Ayushman Bharat, take for instance, the health insurance scheme, or the digitization of India, which itself has thrown up several possibilities. And every sector has seen some change or the other, whether it is doing away with obsolete laws, or whether it is bringing a new system, or whether it is encouraging people to do startups, or right now the interim budget itself saw a proposal of 1 lakh crore being set aside for any person taking up innovation as a goal, innovation of anything, new technologies. So you can see that the Prime Minister vision is actually 360 degrees. Several areas that need to be focused on, steps to be taken, people to be encouraged, because what is needed today is the government has to act as a facilitator. And that is the direction which this country is moving. Government is no more a regulator, rather a facilitator. So these are the aspects that has brought confidence in this government, that has brought confidence in our economy, and it has brought confidence among the people in their own potential and their skills and their ability to overcome the challenges ahead.
Mr. Iyer, the Prime Minister said that Modi 3.0 will infuse all its power to realize the dream of a developed India. Now, a few days ago, he told the Lok Sabha that the country should expect big decisions from his third term in office. Could you walk our viewers through what a Modi 3.0 might look like? Will it be different or similar to his previous 2 terms?
Rajesh ji, the Prime Minister, when he mentioned this Modi 3.0, he also recalled the challenges his government had to face in the first term in office, which he called filling up the potholes. Matlab, gadde barne ka kaam. He himself had confessed several times. He think that there were certain problems so deep that needed immediate attention. That is how the first phase went about, filling up those gaps that had been long pending. The second phase was doing things that had to be done. So it saw some structural changes, it saw some structural reforms, and also things that were standing in the way of full integration of the country, like for instance Article 370. Now the third phase is really a stage when the foundation has been laid. Now you start building up. Now you build up not just the resources, you build up capacities. Also, and with the capacities, you also build up the people's capabilities. That will decide the future of this country. The Prime Minister talked of laying the foundation for the next 1,000 years in terms of scale, in terms of speed, in terms of durability, because we are going to see India emerging as a very, very important player, because India has been talked about as a soft power. But the way things are happening around the globe, India will not just be a soft power. India will be more than that. India will be a strategic balancer, as you see the kind of challenges that are cropping up, across different regions. And for all that to happen, our people will have to live in an era of prosperity.
Indeed.
Our people will have to live in a period of creating wealth.
And finally, Mr. Iyer, the Prime Minister was unsparing in his criticism of the Congress party. He said that the Congress has always been against reservation. How do you view these political punches?
Rajesh ji, Prime Minister's reference to that letter Jawaharlal Nehru wrote to the Chief Ministers in 1961 had a context, because Rahul Gandhi has been going around the country saying that, OBCs were neglected. That is why you don't see any top officers of the secretarial rank, and he has been blaming this government for that. So what the Prime Minister was saying was, look, you can go around saying all this, but the fact is Mandal Commission came only in the 90s. Since then only all this quota and promotion came. To pick up something without looking at the basis for making that allegation, you have been saying. But so Prime Minister said, look, right from beginning, there was the reservation was not looked at a kind of a final solution or a permanent solution. That is what Nehru reflected in his letter, because the Nehru said, look, it should rather, there should be affirmative action, but the focus should be on economic deprivation. Rather, the economic criteria should be the basis. This is the argument that has been made frequently. But what the Prime Minister was saying, that the fact that social backwardness was also a result of, rather was complement to the economic backwardness, and had these affirmative measures, including a quota for other backward classes, had it been started much earlier, like it was done for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, things could have moved much forward. All those sections could have benefited over the years. Instead of that, Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party has been making a big deal about having a caste census and then talking about how OBCs have been neglected. But the fact is, affirmative action has happened over the years.
Indeed.
And this government has done more than any of the previous government, as far as OBCs are concerned.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, Mr. Iyer, for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Right, moving on, a 3-day space seminar and exhibition called DefSat began at the Manekshaw Center in New Delhi on Wednesday. The event was inaugurated by India's Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan. Australia's High Commissioner to India attended the event. DD India's Akshay Dongre has more.
DefSat, a 3-day space seminar and exhibition, was inaugurated by Indian Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan in Delhi. An exhibition showcasing various technological advances made by private space industry partners was also inaugurated at the venue. The CDS emphasized that the government is encouraging all the stakeholders, including startups, for development of a dependable space ecosystem in India.
We had only one startup when we all started this in probably 2014. In 2023, we have about 204 startups, with almost 54 of them joining actually in the year 2023 itself. As a nation, we have invested close to 123 million in this sector, bringing our total funding to almost about $380 billion.
Australian High Commissioner to India, Philip Green, who also attended the inauguration ceremony, highlighted the growing relation between India and Australia in space sector.
For us in space, India is a natural partner. India is emerging as a tech giant. It is, as I say, a strategic partner. And it is clearly emerging as your plans and your successes in space demonstrate a leading power in space exploration and engagement.
SIA India and Space Industry Association of Australia fostered their relations further by signing of a Memorandum of Understanding aimed at enhancing collaboration and fostering mutual growth in space industry between the two nations. India has established itself as one of the most advanced space powers in the world, and now it is making huge strides toward building defense space capabilities for the future generation to meet the challenges and explore the opportunities in this arena that remains vastly unexplored. And all of this is being done in line with the goal of a self-reliant India and a developed India in 2047 that is being done with the help of a joint public and private partnership in this domain. With camera person Manmohan, I'm Akshay Dongre, DD India.
A day after the northern Indian state of Uttarakhand's Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami introduced the Uniform Civil Code Bill in the State Assembly, the bill was passed on Wednesday. With the House nod, Uttarakhand became the first state in India to implement a uniform civil code, which presents a common law for marriage, divorce, inheritance and property.
आज हम आज़ादी के अमृत काल में हैं और हम सभी का कर्तव्य है कि हम एक समरस समाज जिसमें कोई भेदभाव न हो, कोई पक्षपात न हो, किसी प्रकार की कोई मिलावट न हो, उस समरस समाज का निर्माण करें। एक ऐसा समाज जहां पर संवैधानिक जो प्रावधान है वह भी हों और सभी के लिए समान हों, सभी के लिए सर्वोच्च हों, सभी के उन्नति में, सभी की गति में, सभी की उन्नति में उनका योगदान हो। समान नागरिक संहिता भी यही है, जिसमें सभी लोगों को समान मानकर उन्हें समान जो अधिकार है वो देने की बात कही गई है, जिसका आप सब लोगों ने अब कुछ न कुछ सभी ने किसी न किसी रूप में इसका अवलोकन कर लिया है। ये चलता रहेगा, ये हमने शुरुआत की है, कोई इसका समापन नहीं किया है। समान नागरिकता के बारे में कहते हुए मुझे खुशी हो रही है कि जो हमने संकल्प लिया था वह संकल्प आज सिद्धि तक पहुंच रहा है, वो संकल्प पूरा होने जा रहा है।
GAIL India is spearheading the transition towards achieving net neutrality by 2040. During India Energy Week 2024, the company unveiled a range of initiatives aimed at advancing India's journey towards energy self-reliance, particularly in energy management. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya spoke to Jyoti Kumar, Head of Corporate Communications at GAIL India, to gain an insight into the company's ambitions.
Now I'm at the GAIL Pavilion in the India Energy Week, and you can see this is a hamster part that they have made, hamster run, where if you walk on this you will get to know what all the things that the company is doing to promote renewable energy and making sure that all the inputs are there to take the company forward. To talk more about that, I have with me Mr. Jyoti Kumar, who is with the GAIL. Sir, tell us more about your company's commitment to take the company forward.
So let me tell you, GAIL is working in alignment, total alignment with Government of India's vision of bringing net zero emissions timeline 2070. But in particular GAIL, because we are working in a gas sector, if we look at the different stages, the step 1, step 2 and step 3, then we have target. Now step 1 and step 2, we are going to have target of 100% net zero in step 1 and step 2 by 2040, and in step 3, which is also very critical because this is that speaks about the entire business of dominant business, that natural gas is going to be converted to 35% is going to be converted to by 2040. So the target by 2040 is step 1 100%, step 2 100%, and step 3 35%.
So you guys are also working on the concept of development of a green belt, then rainwater harvesting, zero water discharge. And also tell us more about the other aspects, especially when it comes to going and exploring offshore fields.
Offshore field for us is going to be more into renewable sites in the solar and the wind. And hydrogen also. We are one of the few companies in India which have started the pilot project of electrolyzer, and it is one of our plant is going to be completed in 2024 also.
Much appreciated your time. So that was Jyoti Kumar from the GAIL, and saying that they are working really hard to make sure that their commitment for net zero by 2040 is there, and at the same time working with the government of India on the aspect of green hydrogen in a big way. With camera person Ajit, this is Tapas Bhattacharya for DD India from India Energy Week in Goa.
Guyana's Prime Minister Mark Phillips, who is visiting India on Wednesday, called on India's President Draupadi Murmu at Rashtrapati Bhavan, or the President's House in New Delhi. The discussions centered around enhancing cooperation in various sectors such as trade, investment and cultural exchanges. Both leaders expressed their commitment to furthering the existing friendly relations between the two countries. Welcoming Prime Minister Phillips and his delegation, the Indian President said that there is a need to further diversify the bilateral trade basket. And the Guyanese Prime Minister attended the World Sustainable Development Summit 2024 in India's capital, New Delhi, on Wednesday. The summit was inaugurated by India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar. The Vice President commended the work by the Indian government on sustainable development.
It is heartening to see India's leadership at the forefront of this global effort. The Indian government has demonstrated a steadfast commitment to sustainable development and environmental stewardship. From ambitious renewable energy targets to pioneering initiatives that balance economic growth and ecological preservation, India serves as a beacon of inspiration for nations around the world.
Meanwhile, Guyana's Prime Minister said that for sustainable cooperation, international cooperation was also required.
There is a need for international cooperation and collaboration from the public and private sectors to address the complexities and uncertainties in climate financing, technical capacities, policies, and regulatory frameworks to drive the energy transition.
Bangladesh's Foreign Minister Hassan Mahmood, who is on his maiden visit to India, met External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar in New Delhi on Wednesday. He visited Rajghat and laid a wreath at the memorial of Mahatma Gandhi. Speaking on India-Bangladesh ties, Minister Mahmood said that India and Bangladesh were brotherly nations and such visits strengthen the ties.
Look, we are two brotherly countries and we have excellent ties between the two countries. So any visit of Bangladesh minister or Indian minister to Bangladesh definitely strengthen our ties. We value the visit because I have come here by the invitation of the Foreign Minister of India. So we are thankful to Indian government and especially to the Foreign Minister for inviting me here.
A parliamentary committee on external affairs headed by P.P. Chaudhary presented its 28th report on countering global terrorism at regional and international levels on Monday. The Secretary presented an overview of the international dimension regarding the developments on countering global terrorism in the past. The report also pointed out the need for concerted action against all terrorist groups and extradition and mutual legal assistance agreements in criminal matters. India also submitted listing proposals of terrorists who were involved in cross-border terrorist attacks on India. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Fiji's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Professor Biman Prasad will become the first foreign leader to offer prayers at a newly built Ram temple at Ayodhya when he travels there on Thursday. And a look at how India's National Education Policy 2020 encourages research and innovation. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. The EU has aimed to slash its net greenhouse gas emissions by 90% by 2040 as part of its push to become the world's first climate-neutral continent. The EU has set a legally binding objective of climate neutrality by 2050. Observers say that the EU's 2040 plan has relied too much on expensive carbon capture technology and will necessitate large investments in order to meet the carbon removal targets. The move comes as farmer protests disrupted several European cities in the last 2 weeks. Fiji's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Professor Biman Prasad will become the first foreign leader to offer prayers at the newly built Ram temple at Ayodhya when he travels there on Thursday. The temple was consecrated by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on 22nd January. In an exclusive interview to your channel, the visiting minister said the historic event invoked feelings of identity with India, the country of his forefathers. You will write your name in history books by becoming the first foreign leader to visit the new Ram temple at Ayodhya. How does that make you feel?
Well, Ram and Ramayana have been an integral part of Hindus who left India many years ago as part of indentured laborers. So with them, they carried Ramayana, Gita, and others, carried Quran and Bible. So all those people who left India under the indenture system, which the British executed to take Indian laborers to British colonies elsewhere. So in Fiji in particular, Ramayana, Gita have always been part of the Hindus' existence and their identity. So when one talks about Ayodhya, it immediately invokes the great feeling, the recital of the epic Ramayana, where Lord Ram returns to Ayodhya. And Diwali is a national holiday in Fiji, celebrated to mark the return of Lord Ram to Ayodhya, after 14 years of exile. So it does invoke a lot of yearning, emotion, and the feeling of connectivity and identity with India. So yes, it does invoke a lot of emotional ties with India.
And you can watch the full interview at 8:30 p.m. That is 1500 GMT on Thursday, the 8th of February. India's National Education Policy 2020 promotes creativity and critical thinking to encourage logical decision-making and innovation. It puts a special focus on seeding and nurturing research and innovation as well. DD India's Kriti Vadhera reports.
National Education Policy 2020 aims at creating a conducive ecosystem to catalyze and energize research and innovation, with a vision to cultivate 1 million children in India as nuteric innovators. Atal Innovation Mission is establishing Atal Tinkering Laboratories, called ATLs, in schools across India.
This is a place where we promote a free thinking of ideas and then implementing them. And children are thinking a step ahead. That's what is important for us.
Young boys are actively engaged in producing and distributing sanitary pads to women in rural areas using machines they have developed in their school. This effort challenges traditional gender stereotypes and directly tackles menstrual hygiene issues, empowering women and raising community awareness. Additionally, it offers valuable skill development opportunities for the boys, contributing to a broader social impact by enhancing women's health and overall well-being in rural communities.
First of all, we take our raw materials, cotton shell and wood pulp sheet, and then we churn it in a grinder and obtain the composite fiber. Thereafter, we compress it and obtain our pad-shaped material. Thereafter, we put the PE film, a blue color film that acts as the leakage preventing material. And then we seal our pads using the non-woven cotton sheet using the heat seal. Thereafter, we put a release paper, and then we sterilize our pads, and then we store them.
Students have ingeniously developed a car powered by solar and wind energy, marking a remarkable innovation.
So this is our effort and innovation to create a more sustainable future and a more sustainable India. The solar panels of our car move its direction according to the direction of the sun. The LDR sensors use a complex PID algorithm to detect the direction of sunlight and uses servo motors to shift the solar panels accordingly.
Young innovators have developed an app with the capability to diagnose sensitive skin issues.
A lot of people hide their severe skin condition issues, and that is why we have made Dermavision. Dermavision is an app to detect whether you have a severe skin condition, and if so, it will help you guide you to the doctors.
NEP 2020 aims at transforming the education system in India with its holistic development, critical thinking, creativity and flexibility. And with such transformation, India's younger generation is getting prepared for the developed nation by 2047. With camera person Jagmohan, I'm Kriti Vadhera reporting from New Delhi for DD India.
And with that, it's a wrap. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.